Different running forms require different activation and use of muscles, and this requires a different warm-up and cool-down based on the type of runner you are. The three styles of running are forefoot running, rearfoot or heel strike running, and midfoot running. This first part is for forefoot running. This is for people that run a lot on their toes or the balls of their feet, so they make initial contact with their ground with the balls of their feet or their toes and keep the heel lifted pretty much through the stance phase of the running cycle. They use a lot of calf and hamstring and hip flexors in this type of running gait. So you want to make sure that all those areas are warmed up before the run and stretched out after. So before the run, you're going to warm up with the most standard exercise of squats. So you want your feet just outside hip distance, pointing straight ahead, core engaged, and drop your hips straight down. If you're feeling a little tight, you might need more reps. If you're a little looser, about 10 reps is good to get you warmed up, to get that ankle mobility, hip mobility, and the glutes and quads engaged. Next, you're going to go into a heel or lunge with a heel raise. This is going to help stretch out those hip flexors and quads, as well as initiate glutes and calves starting to fire. You want to perform about 10 on each side. Next is toe walks. Really getting the calves and the plantar fascia warmed up before the run, because this is how you're going to be moving. Followed up by toe skips, getting a little cardiovascular warm up as well as the calves and hip flexors a little bit more. Then you're going to do a little quad reach stretch just to elongate and work on some of that balance from going from one foot to the other. All of these perform about 10 reps, 1 or 2 times through, and then you're ready to go. At the end of a run, it's important to cool down. So we're going to do first a calf stretch or an active calf stretch. So you're going to cross your leg over, bend down, and raise up those back toes about 10 times. Really feeling the elongation through the back of your calf and hamstring. Next, you're going to do a quad stretch into a lunge. So you're going to hold a quad stretch, knee pointing straight down, glute engaged, feel the stretch in the front of your thigh, and you're going to step it out into a lunge to stretch out more of the hip flexor. Make sure you're not arching through your low back, isolating the stretch to the thigh, and then elongating through the trunk when you are in the lunge. Perform about 10 on each side. And lastly, you want to stretch out your feet and your back a little bit by doing a child's pose with your toes curled. I didn't drop into a full child's pose, so I was focusing on my feet, but you're going to hold for about 5 to 10 seconds, relax it, and then repeat about 5 times. Next is rear foot or heel strike running. This is where you're going to make your initial contact with your heel hitting the ground first and staying pretty flat through the foot through the running cycle. To the naked eye or untrained eye, midfoot running can look very similar on the road as a heel strike, but instead of hitting directly through the heel, the stride is shortened a little bit, so more of the whole foot hits the ground with the initial contact. This can decrease the forces up the chain, but again, it just depends on the strength of the runner and if there's any injuries, whether this running form is good or not. But both rear foot and midfoot runners spend more time using hamstrings, quads, and glutes as well as they can also use a muscle called the anterior tibialis, which is on the front of the shin. So we want to make sure that these areas get warmed up and cooled down. So the pre-run, or a warm-up, you're going to again start with squats. So start with your feet just outside hip distance, core engaged, feet pointing straight. This is going to help improve and warm up that ankle mobility, hip mobility, get the quads and glutes ready to go and blood flowing for your run. Perform about 10 reps, making sure form is good and you feel like you're getting the full depth. Then you're going to go into a lunge and reach, help opening up the front of the body, but also engaging the glutes as you go through the lunge. You want to perform about 10 on each side. The next exercise is a little bit of balance and warming up of the glute and the quad together. It's called the flash. So you're going to pick a leg to stand on. The other leg, you're going to reach back, bring your chest forward, and then drive that knee up and bring up your chest, engaging that glute and quad as you're stable on that standing leg. Perform about 10 on each side. It's okay if you lose your balance a little bit. Just keep working and trying not to put the toe down as you reach back. Again, you want to perform about 10 reps on each side. It's also a good exercise to see if you have any discrepancy in your balance or strength from side to side. It could give you a good indicator that this is an area that you need to work on to help improve your running efficiency and how effective your run is of preventing injuries. So post-run, we want to make sure that we want to stretch out all the areas that we were heavily using. So we're going to start with the quad reach stretch. So you're going to grab your foot and reach forward as you stretch out the quad and the front of your body. Perform about 10 on each side. You're then going to go into an active for a walking hamstring stretch. About 10 on each side. And then lastly, you're going to follow up with a child's pose to cobra. Sometimes when you're a runner, you might notice that you get a little bit of low back tightness, and it could be depending on how you strike the ground. And if you find that you end up arching your hips or your low back, it can get a little tight through that area. So you're going to have the feet pointing straight down if you notice any shin tightness. Stretch it out into a child's pose, really reaching the hips towards the feet, and then up into a cobra, elongate the front. Any questions, comment below or reach out at ocptclinic.com.